What is up everyone, in today's video we're gonna make Turned Jigglypuff, so let's get started with designing it in Blender. Jigglypuff, Jigglypuff. Okay, I will stop and I will not sing anymore, but you will need to smash subscribe right now. So when I made basic shapes with spheres, of course, I remeshed it to get more geometry and I made eyeballs very smooth. Then I added more volume to the body with clay strip brush and I increased the size of buttocks. I'm not sure if real Jigglypuff have buttocks, but this version of him have. Something went wrong with the ears, but don't worry, I fixed it. So then I made one of the legs with, yes, correct, with a sphere. I mirrored it to the other side, because why not save some time and use magic like that. So then I made some adjustment to the overall body and I added some extra arms. Then I was experimenting with the face and I stick to the wide open egg-shaped mouth. Then I made another sphere and at first I wanted to shape a hair out of it, like in the original, but it came a bubble and I think it perfectly fits this design. So then I went with the details a little bit and I wanted to make gums inside the mouth. I forgot that in Blender I can make torus, so I made one myself with the cube. Basically I started to inventing a wheel from the beginning. After that was ready, I made a single teeth from the sphere and then I just copied it, and to every another one I made small alternations. Then I made a tongue and I placed it inside the mouth. After adding some more details, I cut the base in a straight line, so later when I 3D print it, the Jigglypuff will be able to stand on its own. Then I made some very complicated operations of the mesh. Basically I remeshed it with an add-on and then using various modifiers I restored the details, and this way I got cleaner topology and there is less risk that Blender will lag and crash. So when the sculpting was almost ready, I added a skin texture. And we can't forget about the microphone, so let's make it. What, you want me to sing again? Okay. Jigglypuff, Jigglypuff. Because you're not subscribed. So then when everything was ready, I grabbed the grab tool and moved everything according to Fibonacci golden proportions levels. Okay, model is ready, time for printing. So I wear all my protective equipment for touching and smelling resin. As you see, I bought a chamber for my machine. It protects resin from UV light and protects my nose from smelling it. Smelling resin, not UV light. Also, it keeps warm inside and it's good for resin. So when I removed the supports, I gave it a nice bath in the container with dirty alcohol, and Jigglypuff started to farting in the water. Then when I removed it, it started to pissing. So then I place it in the second container for the second cleaning. After a few minutes I remove it and it pissed again. I left it overnight for drying and then I cure it with UV light for a few minutes. After that I removed supports. And just to make sure, I stuck the UV lighter into his mouth to make sure everything is cured inside. I got bored, so I placed it on its own. This time I used different brand resin, but also the same color red clay. I noticed that after curing it gets darkened a little bit and it has this interesting matte surface, but also a satin finish when looking near the light. So then I covered the pissing holes with air dry clay. I smoothed his buttocks a little bit because there was a spot with a lot of supports and they make those tiny holes in this area for popping. So the next step was to prime him. For this I use a lot of black primer with some of red color and a lot of thinner. As you see, I installed a pipe that will get all the fumes from airbrushing and transfer it directly to neighbor's window. I pour the paint into the airbrush and I pray for not clogging my airbrush press. After it dried, it became way too dark, but what to do, life is brutal. Then I mixed my old primer with some white and I started to cover some areas with it, avoiding the areas where shadows are. Then I started applying first layers of paint on other elements like eyes and things like that with a brush. Then I grabbed the brush and I tried to make highlights, but the final effect was just so awful that I decided to start over again and I repainted it on much lighter color. This time I decided to make shadows with a wash, and after a few strokes my faith in success of this mission started to restore. It looks much better. Although it still wasn't perfect, at this stage it looks like Jigglypuff just came out of the bloodbath. I done the same with the back, and after waiting a few hours for drying it was still quite sticky. Then I add some white and red to the old paint to make some brighter tones and I started applying it in between shadow areas. This took some time. Helpful with this process was using a brush for makeup. Actually it was kinda like making makeup. No, I never made a makeup before. Stop making assumptions. So then I painted teeth and made some shadows near the eyes. The wash I used for the shadows was really shiny after drying, so I decided to spray all the body with matte varnish. Let's watch the final shots. So here it is, Jigglypuff. It goes to my new collection of 3D printed figures. And make sure to watch this video. It's a figure, but it's also a video, trust me. Click somewhere here.